So much fun. I want to start right at the end there because that just got me
Yeah.
so hyped up. That's like the Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I'm not leaving. Like, this guy continues. I hate to bring up the only bear that we know about in this stock. But, Darth Chris likes to say that we haven't gone through a recession. We've gone through more than most companies and continuing to hit it out of the park. And I just want to say one big thing before I lead it off to you guys. This really does solidify us as the last lender standing. Like every other lender dropped off this quarter and we did not. And we're holding up and we are expecting really, once again, I'm not too proud of it, but it is conservative guidance. They're expecting really conservative things. So if anything switches onto the good side, it's going to be a massive positive for SoFi. Last lender standing, baby.
Okay. Tevis, your raw thoughts after hearing this earnings call?
Yeah, very bullish stuff. I think they had a lot of insight into 2023. I mean, the analysts asked it like 17 freaking times, the same question, but they basically provided a lot in terms of where they expect the economy. Look, I think the thing that surprised me the most is that they're expecting rate cuts in 2023. Did I hear that correctly? Am I making that up? I
Of
thought I
course they
heard
are.
it.
All banks are. All banks are like most of them are expecting two rate hikes and then two rate decline or two rate cuts after.
In
That's pretty in line with
23?
everyone else.
That's okay.
So everyone thinks the Fed is going to cut, or the banks at least think that the Fed is lying.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, because I'm going off of like what the Fed said, and they're like, we're not cutting in 23, maybe
Yeah.
24. So we'll see how that goes because they've baked that into their expectations for numbers. And so if the Fed doesn't cut, then that could be a rough time in the second half of the year. And then in terms of the B2B side as well, I know Riley's going to have something to say about the partnerships in Latin America, that expansion, the SMB point, which they're expecting it in 2024. We can talk a little bit about that. I took a bunch of notes here, so we can jump to a bunch of different places wherever we want.
Okay, Riley, your overall thoughts?
I mean, it was good. I wish they talk about the tech side more often. One thing that stuck out was that they're moving off-prem pretty soon this year. So they're expecting to be fully integrated in the cloud, which is really good for the developers. More people focused on.
We know what cloud they're using.
Azure.
Yeah, I think Technisys and Azure have a good relationship.
But
So then everyone knows, on-prem is on premises. So meaning that they have computers in-house.
Physical servers. Yeah.
Yeah.
They also, just on that point, Riley, increased headcount 2.5x on the tech platform side.
They're planning, or they just did?
Well, this was in response to the Merrill Lynch question. So I'm not sure if it was their planning or they just did, which is interesting because I thought Chris Lapointe in his remarks highlighted, or to one of the questions earlier, highlighted that they did a couple of cuts to workforce because Technisys and Galileo are now operating as one tech platform as opposed to two. And so after they merged, there were redundancies in a couple of the roles. And so just fine tuning that. So it might be that they're planning to increase headcount from 2.5x. He said it in the same breath that he said the on-prem to cloud. So if that was something that's expected in 2023, then this is probably expected as well.
That should be really good news, meaning they're not worrying about integration. They're worrying about developing actually new products. Noda did say that they were planning for a bunch of things happening in the investment platform, like differentiated products to make us look more valuable. Because I'm sure Noda knows that one of the biggest top funnel to get all these new customers in is the invest platform associated with the bank. So that would be really cool if by the end of 2023 it looks better, cleaner, or it has some new products. I don't know. That'd be really good.
You guys want to hear something crazy? They said the average FICO score on our personal loan side was 747.
Wow.
Okay. And then our SoFi Money average FICO was 745. Wow, that is crazy because the cross-selling ability means that a much higher percentage of the people are going to be able to actually be approved for a personal loan when they need it, right? And that's really exciting. And then the reason why they think this is happening is because of higher interest rates. Because people who are actually wanting their money to be right, getting the 3.75% in their checkings, rather than just having a bank relationship just because that's what they know, they are probably more financially literate and care about their money. And so they're going to naturally have a higher FICO.
Yeah. And so the idea of delinquency, and I was just going to say the idea, go ahead, Tanner. You got Tevis.
Tevis. I was just going to say student loans was even higher than that, 773 on the FICOs. Go ahead, Amit.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. So the rate of delinquencies and defaults on loans is probably, I mean, less just because we have smarter people doing it or more qualified people versus some of the other banks.
Meaning what? Sorry, say that again.
The idea that we would have people would default on their loans, given the high FICO scores of the members that we have, potentially means it's not like that's not going to happen. But if we do have a major recession, maybe these people are financially literate enough to not have to default on their loan.
Absolutely. Not even necessarily that, right? Like they just have fewer outstanding like debts, right? Because a portion of your FICO is your debt ratio. I mean, Tanner might know this better than I, but like your debt ratio, essentially, what is my credit limit? Let's say that's 10,000, and how much am I utilizing that limit? And if I'm utilizing it 1,000, that's 10%. That's much better than if I have 5,000 out of 10,000 that I'm currently owing. So the higher the FICO scores, generally the better the financial state that they're in from a debt or money owing perspective. And when hard times hit, the people who are already, strapped up with debt, they don't have any wiggle room. And so they're the first to default. And the people with high FICO scores are generally a little bit more resilient because they've had a lot of cushion.
Right. And like, it's so funny whenever you look at Lending Club and people go, oh, well, they lend to really high end users, right? They're not for the everyday consumer. You probably need to go somewhere else for your everyday personal loan. But for Lending Club, you're going to need to make $116,000 a year on average, 116,000. And like, I think it was 715 FICOs. Okay, well, at SOFI, we even step it up a notch. We do 165,000 and 747 FICO scores. So the importance is that if things start to collapse, the idea is that the people who are subprime on their lending, which was what a FICO score is to try to judge where we can, sort of place these people on a delinquency rate and then apply a higher interest rate based on, lending standards. So with SOFI, it's technically like these are the last people to stop paying their loans, depending on how high or how bad the recession actually gets. So we are very, very safe whenever it comes to this. And then even in this earnings call, they even said, we're being even more conservative. Like we know that things are going to return to recession levels. They're aware of all these things. They're actually not being dumb about it. They're just, being very conservative and very excited about their growth. And one of the easiest ways to look at this, sorry, IP banking research, you're not going to agree with me, but it's in the deposit growth. Every bank is shrinking. We are growing. And the analysts that are saying, wow, great quarter, and then, future downgrades or whatever, which is the truth. But they see it. They're going, okay, but this is growing so fast. How can you sustain it? Like that is a good problem to have. And now Noto is he's being a little cheeky. He said, well, we'll just create new lending products. No, you're not. I don't believe you. Like that can't happen forever because you need buyers for those lending products. We hold for sale, right? So we sell all our loans. You need buyers. So the market, if we are going into a recession, buyers shrink down. People don't want fixed income products, if things are going to actually happen to increase in delinquency rates. And if they can still sell the loans, then they're going to be at a higher discount. This is what, Darth Chris is complaining about. I just don't think that his numbers are he thinks it's going to be doom and gloom. And I don't apply that anywhere.
What was Noto saying at the end when he said we can turn up demand if we want, but we're trying to be conservative on demand? Did you guys hear that part where he was basically, we can rank up our member growth, but we're not trying to market as aggressively and I think it's because Tanner, you called it was about profitability versus growth.
Yeah. And I thought it was funny that I said, you know what, we really need to ask about the home loan partners. And then it literally was the next question,
Yeah.
which I'm pretty sure, I don't know this 100%, but I'm pretty sure that lender, someone in the chat said it was Pagaya. That's incorrect. Okay. What I think it is, it's lower.com. That's what I think that lender is. And I'm pretty sure they're messing up. They're
the one that got bought out.
Sorry?
The one that got bought out, lower.com.
I don't know who they got bought out by. I was just actually looking at them. They're starting, like in recent news, they're partnering with Open Door. So I don't follow Open Door enough to know if they actually got acquired by them or anything along these lines. But it seems like they're switching over to some new process. And I'm almost certain that is the lender that they're talking about, which we also invested in. But they are just not, living up to our standards. They're switching over their platforms and making us pay the price for that. That's what they said on this earnings call. So I really appreciate the little bit of extra guidance there, sort of saying why we're having a problem with this home lender, and actually potentially building something internally because they have so much control over their personal loan and their student loan platforms. Like, student loans would be absolutely amazing if there was the demand for it. There's zero demand for it. And, we're still seeing a little bit of an uptick, but like, that's the only problem is our home loans are just shot because our partners are just dropping the floor out from under us. If we can actually make that internal, we have full control and the demand will come back.
Yeah. So just to go back to Amit's earlier point, I'm just looking at the notes. So what he was saying to the last question was they capitalized the bank with 1 billion, but they have excess liquidity because I think they raised like 3.6 billion or something like that. Yeah. 15% leverage ratio, which is above the regulatory limit, but they expect to have additional balance sheet growth in lending. And since they have excess liquidity that they can further capitalize the bank should they need to, they can grow it further if they need to. So that's where that point came from. And then he was also talking about the balance sheet trend in terms of like 1.4 billion in cash and cash equivalents and that trend continuing. But going back to home loans, and I found it interesting that that transition was taking so long. I mean, he said we've done more in the last 2 months than we've done in 18 months, and they still expect this to complete in the second half of 2023. So a couple points there. I mean, number one, having these migrations is freaking hard because it's not only depending on SOFI, it's also depending on that other partner to collaborate with them on that transition. And then number two, I mean, it opens a door for saying, okay, well, now that they're actually having that goal, which Noto reiterated a couple of times in answering these questions, he said, look, with home loans as well, we want to be an end-to-end provider, and we think that that's going to happen. So that opens a door for saying, well, they've already seen what happens with an external dependency once with this company that got bought out, and now it's forcing SOFI into this like 2-year plus process of transitioning out and being hurt because of that. It'll further lead them to the way of like, we need to buy out this company entirely. And so it leads me to believe that the fulfillment partner for home loans is a company that they're seeing as an acquisition target in the near future. I mean, obviously once they finish that transition, probably 2024, but that's still like, if you read between the lines, the writing's on the wall for, we don't want to run into this again. It took us 2 years to do it. We want to be end to end with this process, and they've acquired other companies in the past that help them further their goals. So it just seems pretty clear on that front.
Okay. I think we're ending it here. This was pretty exciting. We got a lot to talk about on our SOFI weekly podcast on Friday. Thank you, 560 people, for being here, just staring at us while we listen to a blank audio page trying to understand what the heck is going on with this company.